How often have we got lost down a rabbit hole of social media when looking for tips to make our homes both functional and beautiful? Today, I'm delighted to be joined by fellow professional organiser Zoe Berry from Edinburgh-based Life Edit, who always manages to find exactly the right balance between form and function in her clients' homes.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here's your host, Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Leslie. We're delighted you're here to join us as part of your decluttering journey. So whether you're brand new today or have been listening in for ages, we want to say thank you so much for being here. It means so much to Ingrid and I that you turn up every week to listen to and support us while we talk all things decluttering and organising. We'd love to help more people with their quest for a clutter-free home, and our podcast is a fantastic way for people to be inspired to take action. We have a favour to ask. If you like what you hear, be sure to hit the follow, subscribe, or like button on your podcast player. Share us with your friends or share your thoughts on the podcast by leaving a review.
So, Zoe, welcome to the Declutter Hub podcast. How are you?
Hi, Leslie. I'm excited to talk to you.
I know we've been talking about this for so long, haven't we? We're like, we definitely need to do something together. Let's go back. Whenever we talk to other professional organisers, we need context. So we need to know where we first met. And I'll tell you my experiences of meeting you for the very first time, Zoe. So you were on a training course for Apto. I reckon I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say 7 years ago.
I think it was 7 years ago.
Right. Because
six, maybe. It might have been 6.
Well, it might be 6.
Yeah.
There was this kind of powerhouse of a northerner that came into the room who had everything nailed. And I was like, she's going to be a brilliant professional organizer. And true to your word, you are a brilliant professional organizer. So, yeah, do you remember it? Remember our first meeting?
I do remember. You always say the nicest things. I love that. What I remember is going on that course and coming back on the train, because I think it was in Manchester. So I got the train back to Edinburgh and I just wrote all the plans that I had after meeting you and after going on the course. And I don't think I've ever felt as sure about wanting to do something professionally in my life. And to be honest, that feeling, I think it is 6 years ago, it's never gone away. That passion that I feel for it. It was like I think I'd already got a few clients that I'd been kind of working with in a kind of startup way before that course, I think. And then it kind of snowballed from there more quickly than I ever thought it would do to where we are now with Life Edit. And yeah, you at the time, you gave me some really good advice. We had a chat over lunch. I remember that. And I just saw you as a really inspirational person, somebody who I remember thinking, if I could ever get it to the stage that Leslie's at, and I know you do different stuff now, obviously with the Declutter Hub, but I feel like your business with the Clutter Fairies was a real influence on where Life Edit has got to.
Oh, fantastic. No, it was so nice. It was such a nice day. Ingrid and I used to do those courses and other people. Was it Ingrid on our course or was it someone else?
It was Jasmine, I think, it's based down south, isn't she?
Yeah, Jasmine's been on the podcast a couple of times, so you will know Jasmine.
Nice.
So she used to be a fellow trainer. Yeah, we used to have so much fun doing those training courses. So yes, that's when we first met. And so now, fast forward then 6 years, which is what you've said. You have the wonderful Life Edit, which is a fabulous professional organising business based in Edinburgh. Now, everybody around the world will have heard of the beautiful Edinburgh. You have some fabulous clients, don't you? And I think what I always see on your Instagram, on your social post then, which is our window into your world then, is that you go above and beyond in terms of the aesthetic. So, I think I said in the intro, you definitely marry up form and function. And I think that's what's really, really interesting. So tell me a little bit about, you obviously wanted to be a professional organizer. You obviously love it. You've grown a fantastic business. So what made you want to go into professional organizing in the first place?
I've got a few answers to that, unsurprisingly. You know what I'm like. First of all, I've always liked it. So my mum would say it's all because of her, because she used to pay me 50p a cupboard to do our kitchen cupboards when I was little. So I always liked, that kind of creating calm and systems out of, I was going to say chaos. She wouldn't thank me for that. It wasn't chaotic, but all cupboards could do with a bit of an overhaul sometimes, I think. And I used to love doing that. I'd put the radio on and take everything out and give it a clean and put it back in again, like for a bit of extra pocket money. I never thought that I would make that into my career, obviously. So there's that kind of, which I've always liked. I've always done that in my own house. But I think there's a couple of reasons. First of all, I've always wanted to do something, and I always have worked in a sector where I felt really obviously like I'm providing help for people. That thing where I guess it depends what motivates you, and what motivates me is like making a difference. So before I had my children, I worked for the third sector. So I worked for different charities, and the most recent one was Macmillan Cancer Support. And I always felt, even if I was having a bad day, like there was a sort of bigger picture. And so that's been really motivating for me. And for me, that's the biggest thing that you get out of being a professional organizer is that feeling that you've helped somebody and changed their environment. And then I guess I've got 3 boys who are 12, 10 and 6. And so Jude was a baby when I met you. He was like 10 months old, I think, when I went on that course. And yeah, so he's kind of grown up with his mum being a working mum, whereas the other 2 boys, Matthew and Daniel, I was at home with them for 7 years. And I remember really clearly going to see a friend from work who'd had a baby. And I went into her house, and it was like, it was fairly extreme, I would say. And she just turned around to me and went, "This is what you're going to have to get used to if you have a child." And I remember thinking, I don't think I could cope with it being like this. Like it was, I don't use these words in terms of my own clients, but it was chaotic in the extreme. And I remember thinking, I don't think I could ever cope with that, So I didn't want my home to feel completely taken over by all the kids' stuff. I mean, it still is now. You know what it's like. It goes from plastic stuff and little trains and stuff like that up to like enormous shoes that take over, your house. It's just as they grow, your kids' stuff is in your house. But I think I wanted a separation from that daytime being a stay-at-home mum, having loads of kids over all the time, having all the toys out, the snacks everywhere, to in the evening being able to feel like things were easy to tidy away, and Rich and I could have a little tiny bit of an evening when the kids had gone to bed. And I found that when I started saying that to people, they were like, "Oh my God, me too. Oh my God, like that's exactly how I feel." And it's just like it really touched a nerve with people. And so I don't think I had like a really clear plan. I'm not somebody who ever has a big strategy. I kind of start just doing the doing and then develop the strategy from there. And that's what happened, really, I think. So I've never been somebody who thought, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I've got a 5-year plan or anything like that. I just started saying to people, I'm thinking that if this helped me, maybe it'll help other people. And that's when it just started to really kind of roller coaster from there, that, surrounded by people who'd got small children, like you do when you're being an early mum yourself. And the amount of people who said to me, "Oh my God, would you come and do my playroom cupboard," whatever it would be. And so that's it. It was like a bit of a perfect storm of where I was in my life, people that I was hanging out with, and this sort of background that I suppose I've always had of liking to create tidy spaces. Like even when I was at university, I couldn't study if my bedroom was a mess.
Right.
I've always needed it. That's why it's quite funny, because I'm sitting here in my husband's office. We used to share an office, right? And we got on really well. I cannot share an office with him. I don't want to show you his drawers, Leslie. You'd go off him.
It's so funny. Do you know what I always find really interesting, because I think I've spoken about this on the podcast before, is that, when I'm looking for people to work on my team, the Clutter Fairy or whatever, it's always about the background story. So because you teach someone to organize, I'm sure you're the same in your team. So super interesting, of course, that you started out in Macmillan. For anybody that doesn't know that, in outside of the UK, that is a cancer charity. Mm-hmm. Big one in the UK. I think it's only UK based, right?
It's only UK based, and it's definitely one of the biggest charities in the UK. Certainly, I think that and Cancer Research are like the biggest cancer charities. Yeah.
Yeah. So you come from that empathetic background where you understand traumatic situations, where you understand people are feeling under the weather. And that's so important to have that empathy, but also to kind of to be a solution finder as well, you know, to really think, how do we fix this and how do we make it better for new mums, for, you know, your husband in his office, whatever that looks like. And then you sort of manage to blend those together seamlessly and then gone down the kind of aesthetic route, because you've got a beautiful home, Zoe. You've got a converted, it's like a converted chapel, right? So
Thank you. Yeah.
Zoe's home is gorgeous and unusual in its makeup, in its shape, and its size. I'm sure there's been stuff within your home that's a nightmare to navigate as well, in terms of maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I imagine there's little quirky holes and sloping ceilings here and there. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You've always had an eye for the aesthetic as well. So before we start to talk about organization, because that's one of the things that I want to talk about. It's not something we talk about a lot really on the Declutter Club, because we're very much all about the emotional side of things, the practical side of things, but it's useful for us to move into the aesthetic. Let's talk about your clients. So we talked about, you know, you run a big team, don't you? You've got, you know, most professional organizers are one-man bands and work one-to-one. You do have a larger team, and quite often your teams go out and work together. So how does that work, and why do clients come to you specifically? What are they looking for? Are they looking for the emotional side of things? Are they looking for the functional side of things? They're looking for the aesthetic side of things? You want to give us, I'm sure it's a combination, to be fair, but give us an idea.
Usually, I would say that our clients are frazzled. The word that everybody uses, and again, you'll know this more than me, is overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like almost everybody uses that word. And it might be they're overwhelmed and it is just that cupboard and they just can't quite get to it. Or it could be, do you know what? We haven't unpacked since we moved in, and we moved in 7 years ago. And there comes a huge sense of like shame around that. And I always say, we're not going to use the word should about ourselves while we're here. You know, I should have done that. I should be No. We're not going to do any of that sort of stuff. So a lot of what we do, obviously we do the tidying, we do the organizing, we do the decluttering, we put the systems in place. My girls could do that with their eyes closed. But the real gift that they all have is really listening to the client and thinking, how do we need to approach this one? Because it's different from the person you worked with yesterday, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the important thing. There's definitely not a one size fits all, is there?
No.
The skill really as an organizer is not to do the tidying and the systems and all that kind of stuff. Of course, we can do that, and that might be a gap that we fulfill for finds that more difficult. But the sort of real skill is in looking at what's making that person tick. You know, have they got children? Are they newly retired? What kind of hobbies do they want to do? What's important? How quickly do they need to run out in a morning? All of those kind of things. Thinking about the right things in the right places. And so it's finding that balance and the real, as you say, Zoe, it's all about intuition, isn't it? And listening to the client to get that, you know, the client, we can do our bit, but we can't do it without the clients explaining how their life is running, whether that's difficulties emotionally or whether it's difficulties practically. And that's the skill.
Physically.
Yeah, exactly. There's all of those kind of things. So I think it's a real, you know, there'll be a lot of people listening today who are, you know, would like to make that leap into hiring a professional organizer. It's something that we've talked about before. And we would urge people who need to get over that kind of final hurdle, initial hurdle, whole hurdle. Do you know what I mean? If you've got the budget to do that, it's a really positive thing to do. But there are also many people listening today who haven't got the benefit of having a professional organizer and want to learn from sort of resources like us today and the podcast and so on about how they can do these things themselves. So we're going to go to a short break, and then we're going to come back after the break, and Zoe's going to give us the words of wisdom that she's got about organization things that she puts into clients' homes. So welcome back, everybody. So Zoe, before the break, we were talking a lot about sort of form over function, aesthetics, things like that with your clients, and we're going to delve into that a little bit deeper. But do you think that the two things need to be exclusive, or do you think you can have one without the other? Do you think aesthetics is more important than function? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
That is a great question, and one that I think as professional organisers we're constantly kind of, you know, juggling with, aren't we? First of all, I think it completely depends on who you're working with. So some people are all about function, and if it functions, that's fine. Some people if they need like visual prompts, people maybe who have neurodivergence or ADHD, if you can put it away in a beautiful folder and put it in a drawer, and then they're going to forget about it. So you actually haven't done your job if you do that. So that, I guess, it's about all the time, it's about checking in with people when you're working about, if I do this, will it work for you, sort of thing. So I think aesthetics should never override form, because we're there to put systems in, aren't we, that work for the client. But I don't think that they need to be separate. I think they don't need to be exclusive from each other. And I think, so I am really, it's very nice what you said about my house. It's not everybody's taste, but I'm really passionate about like the way my house looks and feels, and I like it to be a really fun place. So it's quite vibrant, and it's like very much our family home, and it's party house, and it really reflects who we are as a family. And I suppose I am quite interested in aesthetics, I guess. And I think that we all kind of have a right to a nice living environment. And I took real, I said I used to work for Macmillan Cancer Support, the big cancer charity. Yeah. When I worked with them, if you think about where you get treatment, especially if you're getting treatment for cancer, it can be a really long process. You're in all the time. And if you're sitting in a room and it's not visually appealing, I mean, it can be quite grim, actually, never mind not visually appealing. And Macmillan did this really incredible project called Macmillan Environments, where they took loads and loads of advice from cancer patients, as well as people involved in like architecture and interior design. And if you go into somewhere that they have been involved in, then it's inspiring and uplifting, and quirky, and almost a bit like going to, if you go to like a boutique hotel and you think, God, how did they think of that? Yeah. It reminds me of that sort of like really quite out there, some of the design. And I think I've always thought about that when working with clients, where we are really affected by our environment. And even little things like yesterday, I was working on a bedroom with Becky, and we had a conversation about how the bookcase was going to look. And the bookcase had loads of work in it for this client. And the client was like, I said, how does that make you feel when you're in bed? And she was like, guilty, makes me think about work, makes me think I'm not doing work. So we put all that somewhere else. And then we made the bookcase really aesthetic and nice, and pretty. And she sat on her bed when we finished, and she was like, I'm mesmerized. I feel like I'm meditating. Yeah. And it just proves that, like, for her, that means that it's really easy, and it was free, wasn't it? We just organized it. Yeah. And it just meant that aesthetic had a really big impression on her. So I think that they're all intertwined, but I certainly wouldn't spend loads of time on something that the client's not going to get a kick out of. Yeah. But that's, again, like you said, that's just about constant communication,
Yeah, and I think that, to make something look nice doesn't necessarily need to cost a lot of money. There's so many fantastic solutions out there on the market. I'm with you that I'm definitely all about function, but I also like to have a nice home. And so I'll try and marry the two together. I'll try and find something that's really going to work, because I've got interior design clients myself as well. And I'm all about trying to get the best value for them. At the sort of, trying to get good quality, but not go crazy on price, because it's out there to be had. There's so many fantastic things around you can use. And we're gonna talk about some of those now. I think you're right. I think it's so important to think about aesthetics and think about how that makes people feel. That's the important thing, and that's where form comes in and overrides function a little bit. So you talked a little bit about, a lot of your clients are like your team, in that they're mums, and to kind of navigate all that brings with it. And so I always find that the most impactful place in a home for families, or one of the most impactful, is your hallway, because that's kind of almost like your kind of, what do they call it, like mission control or something like that. So all traffic goes through there and things get dropped left, and you have to find things and so on. And so I wonder if you've got any kind of hints, tips and solutions for things in a hallway, Zoe, because I think they're really difficult to organize, aren't they, and get right, because often we're in spaces and there's a lot of traffic and a lot of stuff passing through.
And you're absolutely right. And I don't think that's really talked about as much as like the kitchen being the hub of your home and all that sort of stuff. But you've gone through the hallway to get to the kitchen, haven't you?
Yeah.
And the amount of times we will have heard as professional organisers, my heart drops when I put my key in the door, because they know what they're going to be confronted by. So I guess it is about what I've got a thing that I quite like, which is it's like a key cupboard. So all the bazillion different keys that we've got for everything just get hung up in the key cupboard, so they're not sitting on a surface when we come in.
Yep.
I think I had some vouchers, and that's what I decided to buy from the shop for that, because I just knew it was gonna, it's functional, but again, it looks nice. I quite often say to clients that they could just have like a bowl sitting on the hallway table, and it might have in it, that's where you put your keys if you don't have a cupboard. That's where you put, in the COVID days, you might put your mask in there, you might put your lanyard from work, and everything just goes in there, so you're not wandering off and then it gets put in a different part of the house. And then the real big sticking point for all people, I think, especially with young families, is the shoes and the coats. Because kids just come in, obviously mine don't do this because they are clearly absolutely perfect. But they just come in and like drop their bag and their coat and their shoes, and you're like, do you know, every day would I ask you not to do that, could you? So if you've got somewhere, I've got 3, which means that I encourage a bit of independence with them. So they have got a peg where they put their stuff when they come in. So if you can have someone at child height, and Jude, who's 6, he knows to come in. He's actually the best one, I have to say, out of all of them. He'll come in and he'll take his shoes off and he'll put them in the the shoe, oh god, I can't remember what it's called, the shoe unit that everybody's got from IKEA, that one. So he puts them in there, and then he puts his bag and his coat up on his little peg, and his brother's is higher up because his brother's taller than me, so he can reach that. And it's just about, if you've got a place, then everybody has got a responsibility, I think, to put them away. Why is the mum, or indeed the dad, doing it for them? So having somewhere where the shoes and the coats and the bags can go is just a key.
It's so interesting now that you talk about that shoe cupboard, because we did so we're like, I don't know, 270 podcasts in. We've never spoken about shoes because they're so difficult to come up with.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find a solution, isn't it, for most people?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we did talk about, and it was only like a few podcasts, 2 or 3 podcasts ago, was that me and Ingrid have a pet hate of those IKEA shoe cupboards that you're talking about. Are you talking about the thin ones that get slotted in?
Yeah.
And so tell me why you like it, because I hate them.
I like it for my kids. I don't like it for me.
Right. Okay.
I don't use it.
I just feel like the shoes always fall over. And
do you?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So that's why
I'll be quite honest with you, Leslie. I'm not looking in it. If the children are putting their shoes in there and they're wearing shoes to go to school, I'm not having a look in it. I know what you mean. I think that they can get really overcrowded as well. So I see people who like, and then the shoes get all like crumpled. But for the kids,
it works for them.
You can't put your shoes in there because he's got size 10 feet, even though he's 12, which is ridiculous. But the little ones, like Daniel plays a lot of football, a lot of sports. I do not want those all lying around in the porch. So yeah, they put them in there, and I think they've got a place. I don't think they are a solution for everybody in every space. I like them because they're thin, and you can almost ignore them when they're against the wall. I don't mind that. Something that I think is quite good is, I always say to people, if you put something somewhere and it looks intentional. So like on my dressing table, I've got like it's like a white tray, and it's quite pretty. Again, it was really cheap. And that's where I put my perfumes.
Right.
And because they're on a tray, it's like they're supposed to be there. I haven't just left them on the top. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I 100% see what you mean. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like the intentional placing.
Yeah, I was down at we've got a flat in London, and try to kind of not get that involved in it. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't get involved, because I do, but it's kind of Steve's flat where he lives during the week, and I was down there this weekend, and we've kind of moved into a different bathroom. We've just kind of moved it around a little bit, and he's got so what I've noticed is and he loves stuff, right, my husband, so
does he?
Oh my god, don't even I don't leave him. I try and protect his privacy, and that's as far as it goes. Let's just say that he likes stuff. And so I was looking at all of his, deodorants and all that, all just stuffed on the side of the thing. Kind of neat, but I was like, all I want to do is put a tray underneath those.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it'll look fine.
Yeah.
I'll just do it next time I'm down there. So I say that involved, but I think I'll just go, oh, yeah, I think that'd be really nice on a little tray.
What
But yeah,
my husband calls, see, when I do that, when he's living his life quite happily, and that sort of thing. If I came and I put a tray or a box, he calls it when I add value. I don't think he's saying it in a loving way. I think he quite like me to stop adding value to his thing. But there's a I can't remember what it's called. I think it might be called a bag muck or something from IKEA, and it's a black mat. It costs a couple of quid, and if you put that by your front door and you say to the kids, when you come in, put them on that, it's like they're in a place, they're not just kicked off.
oh, really?
And that is a really cheap solution. You know, if you
What,
come in,
just explain it again to me, Zoe. So what is it?
it's literally like a black sort of rubberized mat. I don't know why I'm doing this because it doesn't really show you anything else, but it's you can easily fit 3 or 4 pairs of kids' shoes on it, I would say.
Right, okay.
From IKEA, you put it by your front, it's easily washable, all that stuff. So they come in, even if they come in with really muddy boots, and if you just say put them on there, then they're there for them to put on the next day as well.
Right. And it feels intentional rather than just kicking them off and leaving them.
Yeah.
I think
that's what you don't want, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, definitely. And I think, a hallway's got such high traffic and deal with the shoes. I mean, I'm a big advocate, particularly of kids' shoes, taking the barriers away a little bit and just just make something easy. Because if you put a shoe rack, we're having this debate on the podcast, really. And it was like, well, I love a shoe rack. I'm like, yeah, but that's just because you're an organized person and you'll put things on the shoe rack and you'll go and you'll reset that shoe rack. But if it's just a barrier for lots of people, isn't it? So okay, so some great hallway solutions. And so let's talk about kids' bedrooms now. What sort of things have you implemented in kids' bedrooms that work?
I love a kid's bedroom. So do you know what? You find the same problems in all kids' bedrooms, don't you? It's a case of the older they get, the smaller the toys get. So, when they're really tiny and it's like really big, like, I don't know, ride-ons or like musical instruments or whatever. And you think, oh, I've cracked this. And then they get older and everything's tiny, but very precious. And so it's about finding solutions for different size stuff, isn't it? So I feel like I'm sponsored by IKEA with you talking about this at the minute, but what they do well, they do really well, I think. Yeah. And a Kallax unit in IKEA, which is, as we know, like the square unit with the pull-out boxes. You can get the really cheap ones that I put in kids' playrooms quite often, or the fancier ones, and they've got some really nice kind of wicker rattan ones at the moment that can look nice in a sitting room. Those boxes, they're called Droner boxes, I think, and they're great for bigger things. So we use those all the time, and it's like, here's all the Barbies, here's all the dinosaurs, here's the train set, that sort of thing. Easily identifiable. There's different stuff you can do about labeling. You can do your normal labeling. You can get the clip-on. Have you seen those clip-on ones that go over the box and then you can either label or you can write on it? Or sometimes we get kids to write on it so that they've been involved in the process, or put a picture of what's in there so that it's even easier for really little kids. That's a picture of my Barbies. I know my Barbies are in there. And then for smaller things, it's about smaller storage. So I think sometimes what people do is they'll buy like a toy box and put everything in there and realize all you're doing then is creating like this hideous thing where everything has just gone to the bottom and the child isn't playing with it because it's not sectioned out enough. It's too much to ask them to, like, say it's another barrier, isn't it?
Yeah,
too much to ask them to go in and like, scoop it all out and work out what's what.
It is too much. And so when you have got those toy boxes, which are fantastic for some things, we would just use them for kind of soft toys, like big things, you know what I mean? Or maybe like the musical instruments that we're talking about for younger kids and stuff like that. They're perfect for that. I don't even know, Zoe, what we would do as professional organisers if we didn't have a Kallax unit, if I'm to be frank.
I don't know what would we do?
Storage, unless it's Kallax. I don't really know what
they're good for everything, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. CDs,
and the thing,
players, work, everything, and they look really nice. I've tried to strip them out of my house a little bit, but I've had loads over the years. You know what I mean? I think stairs, but they're fantastic for craft. You know what I mean? Just absolutely brilliant. It's just.
And the thing, those ones where it's like instead of the full box, you can get the little drawers, so like the half drawers. So even if the only thing you can fit in a room is a Kallax, you can even make the boxes smaller and put smaller things in there by using the smaller drawers. Yeah. So they're amazing. Such an such a simple design, but so useful for so much stuff. You can use them for clothes, can't you? If that's what you can get in there as well. The Trofast unit as well, I think is really good for kids' rooms. And again, like they've just changed their products up a little bit in IKEA, where it's not just the plastic boxes for Trofast anymore. They've got like nice wire ones. So if you know, some people don't like too much plastic, so that's an option. They can look a bit more grown up if you're going to use them like in a teenager's room. I think the main thing with kids' bedrooms is, you know, this is what we talk about all the time with clients, isn't it? Is like less is more for kids.
Yeah.
You know, like often I think that the anxiety about, oh, but they won't cope if it's not there, comes from the parents thinking that, you know, the child will be bereft if some of the stuff goes out of their room. But, you know, I've only been doing this for 6 years, but 6 years in January. But every single time, even when there's been like a really significant clear out that we've done, the child comes in, you know how they don't lie. They haven't got any of the social niceties. And they come in front of the parents, they're like, I love this. I can see what I've got. I know what I've got. You know, all my stuff is organized. I can invite my friends in to play. And that's my favorite thing. I think that's my favorite kind of feedback that we get when kids come in and kind of tell you how they really feel. Because sometimes, you know, especially like these days, you just get so much stuff. Like kids don't even go to a party without getting, you know, party bags and stuff and things, and I think they get overwhelmed just like we do. And so having a really good clear out, and then just, I think the thing is, again, just keeping stuff in categories, and it just keeps them right, doesn't it?
Yeah, categorization is everything. And I want to come back to something that you said, what I thought was a fantastic idea as well. So we were talking about the Kallax unit, and you were talking about the fact that you've got these like clip over sort of labels that you can use. And by the way, we'll pop some of these links to the IKEA products, because I know most people around the world have got access to an IKEA, even if it's for some of you it's 100 miles away. But you can order online now from IKEA and things like that. So we will drop things into the show notes, so you've got ideas of what Zoe's been talking about. One of the things that I loved was this idea that you got the child to write on their boxes themselves, so you give them ownership of it. I think that's a really powerful move, isn't it? Psychologically, that the child then feels like they've got ownership of it. In the same way that we talk a lot about, you know, and we could talk a long time about toys and, you know, and parents' involvement in that and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's so important to allow the child to make decisions about, well, if you want to put a Christmas list together, that's fine, but what's going to leave in order for those new toys to come in, you know? So we need to be, you know, encouraging these children from a really young age to make these decisions for themselves and to get control of their own relationship to stuff.
And it's a nice like segue into it, isn't it? If they think, oh, those ladies came and we did a picture on the front of the lake, that's maybe what they'll remember, rather than, oh, you know, what you don't want is, oh, all my stuff left in bags. You know, I got a new bedroom and I got to draw a picture of my teddy bears on that thing. And it's just a nice little tiny first step that they might really enjoy. Yeah, I love that. And they can always draw better than we can.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Yeah, I'm going to be stealing that one from you. And
do it.
Yeah, so we could talk for hours on all of these things, though, but we need to draw this lovely podcast to a close. So before we leave, let's talk about sort of budget tips that you've got for organizing. Have you got anything, you know, a lot of I mean, to be fair, the IKEA systems are really quite low cost, to be fair. You get some fantastic stuff for good value in IKEA. But is there anything else that you can think of that you'd like to share?
Yeah, do you know the first thing that you can do that is completely free is do some decluttering?
Yeah.
So if you decide, right, I'm going to start really small with this knicker drawer, or I'm just in the office at the minute, so I'm looking at, like, you know, your drawers in your office. If you do the system that we all do, which is take everything out, categorize it, decide what you want and don't want, and then put it back again, that you've given yourself a gift there, and it is no money. And so that's the cheapest thing that you can do. If you do want to, and also, do you know, there's actual products you can use that's not going to cost you anything. So if you look around, I'm sitting here now, this is bad, but I can see some boxes which I've ordered with things in that have come. All the boxes
you
that I can see
value to Rich's office.
I love to add value onto that surface right over there. Yeah. You know, like boxes when you order stuff from Amazon or Marks Spencer's or whatever, often they can be useful as well. iPhone boxes, shoe boxes. Yesterday we were looking at, I really hate gift wrap solutions. I always feel like they never quite work.
Yeah.
And I just think the best thing you can do is get your really long gift wrap and put it into a container and stand it up. Right?
Yeah.
That's just me. I've got a bit of a thing about that. And we got a box which was I think it was a Jojo Maman Bebe one. And it was just a box, and we cut the top off, and it was really thin, and it fit right into this place we wanted it to. And we put the gift wrap in, and it was free, and it was environmentally friendly. It's brilliant. So looking around your house and going, have I got anything that is box shape?
Yeah.
Is tip number one. Don't go shopping yet. Do that first. And the second thing is, like, the stuff that we use, I think, I'm saying we, you and me, because I think we probably do all the time, like the Variera boxes from IKEA.
Yeah.
I happen to have one here, look, like I'm on QVC.
Yeah, so if you're on YouTube, you can watch Zoe and see the Variera box. So I don't think we've ever shown that before. I've got loads of them. I've got them sitting behind me. I've got the magazine file versions of that. If you watch behind me, I've got these ones as well, full of stuff that's not closed properly. That's another Variera box. And so it's just a fantastic, yes, it's plastic, but it's white. I think there's other colours right in that Variera, right, Zoe?
I think they only do white.
Do they? But
I think so.
Right, white's going to be useful for most things.
Useful. But like,
fantastic.
My God, the stuff you can use them for. You can use them for dividers in your kitchen. If you've got a big kitchen drawer, you can use them for that. You can use them on shelves because they look attractive. You can easily label them. You can wash them. They last for ages because they are really hard, even though they are plastic, obviously. And you can get them in the size bigger than that as well. And I just think that you use them all the time. They are £3.75 each. And I've never seen one break. So once you've got it, you've got it.
Yeah, exactly. No, fantastic.
Other thing that I really like, and again, do you know what? I have often used like shoe boxes and other form of storage. But if you are looking for some dividers for your underwear drawer, your t-shirts, all that kind of stuff, these trusty they're called Scub.
Yeah.
From IKEA. And that loads of people, I think, listen to this will have already had these, potentially not tragic enough like me to know what they're called. But they're just a set of boxes that you get from IKEA, and I think they're about £7 for 6 of them. And there's a couple of really big ones. They're good for t-shirts, jeans, blah, 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 that sort of stuff. And there's a longer, thin one, and then the really little ones. And again, if you're just going to open a drawer and you want to divide it out, that is a really cheap option for doing that. They also do them in dark grey. And again, once you've got them, like, they just last for so long. And it's such a simple thing. So instead of having that guddle, that's a really good Scottish word. What does that mean? Like a real mix of, oh God, I need to find some socks and I can't find it. There's your socks in that thing there. Easy. Makes putting your clothes way easier, finding them in the morning, easy peasy. And then I suppose I just was going to show these because I've just got them at the minute. But like, I love these for if you are like organising an office or even in a kitchen drawer. The kitchen drawer of doom that you have.
Yes.
With the string and the blue tack and the stuff.
More of organised things, we like to call it here at the Declutter Hub, Zoe.
Yes, of course you do. Of course. That is very, very, very good. And of course, I do not have one in my own house, being perfect.
I do, actually. My drawer of organised things is a drawer of organised things. I have got it decided.
Yeah.
It's kind of wide. I've got space to spread out a little bit. But yeah, I don't. Yeah. Rubbish doesn't gravitate into there, to be fair.
No, me neither. My drawer of organised things that is organised is in the kitchen, and occasionally I'll just take it all out and go, why is that in there? And somebody, Bridget, put stuff in that it shouldn't do, and it takes literally about 2 minutes. And that's the nice thing, isn't it, about being organised? It takes 2 seconds, but that's good because it's like everybody does need pens and I don't know what else, like a candle lighter, whatever is in your drawer of organised things. And if you just get some dividers, again, it's the same principle. You open it and it feels and looks and is organised rather than a guddle. I've taught you a new word, haven't I?
You know what? I do know that word. I do.
Yeah.
I've heard, well, one of my best friends is Scottish for a start, so I'm her. But yeah, no, I feel like I've heard it because within the Declutter Hub, people talk about terminology all the time because people from all over the world. And so I don't know whether it's one of our members. We've got a couple of members in Scotland as well, so it could have come from there. And obviously, it's a thing that people talk about in the organising space, right? So I have heard but it wouldn't come straight to mind. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be using that. It was just interesting, really, because we're talking a lot about IKEA stuff. I was thinking, yeah, maybe IKEA could sponsor the Declutter Hub podcast, but I don't feel like IKEA really need our help in what they're doing.
No, but why would they not? They are trying to, like, we've done some stuff with IKEA recently. I think you could present your case to them. Why not? The other thing I'd see about like budget items is, even when I first started, you really only could go to like somewhere like, I don't know, up here we've got like Home Sense. I don't know if you guys have got that. And obviously it'll be different in different countries. And I just wish we had what America has, but we don't.
No,
but even if you go to
States as well, right?
Say that again.
Home Sense is in the States as well, TK Maxx.
Right, is it? Okay. But I mean, we don't have those incredible, like the Container Store and Target and all that stuff. But if you're in Tesco, Sainsbury's, even like Aldi, the cheaper supermarkets here, now you can get stuff. It's not expensive anymore, is it, to go in and get, because people organizing is so much more mainstream. And that's a really good thing, is, you can go in and see that, for example, you quite often get really good bargains in the supermarket around now when they don't want that stuff in because they want Christmas stuff. Yeah. And you can really look out on organizing stuff in like normal shops now, which is brilliant.
Absolutely. So the message from today is very much about, you don't need to go out crazily and get loads of storage solutions. If you do want to make your home aesthetically look more pleasing, you can do that as well as it being functional. I think that's the message, isn't it? That's coming loud and clear from Zoe. You don't need to spend a fortune. You know already that at the Declutter Hub, we're like, keep your storage until later. You need to declutter, you need to organize, you need to categorize first. Then you make a decision on what you want to do from a storage perspective. So, so we thank you so much. We could sit here and talk. There's so many things that we could talk about, but we need to move on, I guess. You probably need to pick up your kids from school. All those.
Do you know what I need to do? I need to go and see Aladdin with my middle boy at the theatre.
Oh, that's nice.
I know. I'm more excited than he is.
Well, enjoy Aladdin. So for anybody that doesn't know, that's not in the UK, we have this thing called pantomime. I think it's like just a British thing, right? I don't think it's
panto. I think it's like the stage version of the Disney film.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, trying to explain panto to people outside the UK, you realise how mad it is.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to know more about pantomime, then go and look at it. But that is not what Zoe's going to do now. She's just going to straight up theatre of Aladdin, but I'm sure you will have heard of. So thank you so much, Zoe, for spending your time with us. If you want to know more about Life Edit, Zoe, tell us where people can find out more about you.
So you can find us on lifeedit.me, and our Instagram is Life Edit Home Organisation, and we're on Facebook under the same as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Zoe, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Leslie. I loved it.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.